And we're live.
Hey guys, Joshy here with BJ and GameDay. Another week and another week towards the end of the season. So we had our last buy round last week, the week before, and everyone's sort of starting on the run home. Unfortunately, no Brent tonight. Brent is actually traveling and he's in Adelaide for work, so he couldn't make it tonight. But we do have the bogan. The producer's on air.
Yeah,
Mate, how did you
coming,
go last
coming.
week, bogan?
Uh, not as well as I'd hoped. Was up against Big Marty's team. Um, he had a bit to say in the comments last week, but I suspected, considering his recent form, that I wasn't going to go too well against him, and that proved to be correct.
Mate,
Unfortunately, I listened to some internet advice to trade RTS for Tommy Turbo and not to worry about if Tommy Turbo plays or not. And that didn't work out too well.
I may have said that. I may have said that. Um, um, but that was because I was solid with my team. My team had awesome AEs. In saying that, I would have had Dylan Brown if I had done the same thing. So, mate, look, yeah, unfortunate there. Obviously, Tommy Turbo didn't play. I kept a hold of RTS. I didn't make any trades last week. So, yeah, bit of a lucky one there, mate. But fake news, I guess.
Yeah, well, I tried to do the swap, but it wouldn't let me. I tried to do the reversal, wouldn't let me do it. It's like, oh, I'm gonna have to wear it. I think I had oh, Turpin or something like that from the Broncos sub in or something, and yeah, it
Gotcha.
wasn't too flash. So I missed out on about 100 points there from RTS, who actually turned up, I believe.
He did, mate. He had a
Um,
cracker. So,
yeah,
yeah, that was a big part of my 12.42 last week. So I was pretty happy with that score. Missed out a couple um, sort of here or there that I was trying to sort of play around with reserves and that. But yeah, overall for me, I think I've jumped up to about 740 odd. Um,
I'm
and
like 40,000.
mate, that's not too bad for first season. I remember my first season. I think I finished, yeah, somewhere around 40 or
Well,
50,000.
well, here's the thing. You see, like the BJ on Game Day League, it's just the practice league. The true first grade is my public league that I'm in,
Mate, they're all
where where
numpties. They've
where
got
I
no idea.
where I am leading by a ton. So that's where that's
Mate,
the
you
true elite
got
is.
blessed with the public league you're in then because Jesus Christ, if that's winning it for you. No, well look, obviously the BJ league, except for those couple of guys down the bottom, we're pretty competitive. We're all sort of seasoned players and know the ins and outs and the who's to pick and the who to avoid. Because I think despite all these guys obviously playing NRL and being good footballers, there's definitely a certain style of player that Supercoach embraces and the Supercoach points follow. So, mate, after playing this for sort of 5 years, yeah, if we were in that sort of top one or 2,000, you'd be a little bit worried. But unfortunately, mate, I've got to give another shout out to the Bunning Snags. Obviously, we'll get a little to this a little bit later on, but he's top scored again. I just can't get near him.
Was it? I thought it was
He's
Big
pulled out.
Ted.
Oh, sorry. Oh, Big Ted's going to go off at me. Sorry, it was Big Ted. I
Yeah.
think prior to updates, after the round finished, I think Bunnings might have just been ahead or maybe it was just behind, but it did end up being a bigger gap between them. So, but the
We'll
Snags managed to
analyze
get
those
30
scores a
points
bit.
further ahead of me.
We'll analyze those scores a bit later on in the show.
Definitely, definitely. But, mate, the round results from last week, mate, let's just run through the games nice and quick.
Yep.
Um, was it Friday night? So obviously with Origin last week, massive win for the Blues in Origin, so that was awesome to watch. But once we kicked off the round there, Penrith 24-2 winners over the Titans. Dylan Edwards, a return to form for him. I think he scored a double, had an absolute cracker, and I think what's his name? I think his name's Brian.
A literal coach killer for the Titans.
Yes, this was it. Obviously, Garth Brennan getting the sack. Um, I think he's actually gone pretty good there at the Titans since sort of coming there. I haven't agreed with a couple of their recruiting choices, but yeah, at the end of the day, you can only work with what you've got when there's those core players, and you try to bring in some different. But Oh mate, look, I've lived half my life on the Gold Coast, and it's always been that sort of death zone for teams. You go
Well,
back to the South Queensland
well,
Crushers and the Gold Coast Seagulls, and
the
it just never
Giants.
works. Yeah.
Giants were getting about when I was a kid, but well, considering you're from there, you might be able to answer this. Is it a
No, no, no,
player?
whoa, whoa,
Is it
whoa,
a
whoa, whoa,
play?
hey, whoa,
No,
whoa,
no.
whoa,
Well,
whoa.
I'm gonna make
No,
it.
no, no.
I'm gonna
Hang on.
ask you a question.
I'm not from the Gold Coast. I'm from Queanbeyan, New South Wales.
Oh fuck, that's
I
worse.
live, I live on the Gold Coast. I live on the Gold Coast now, but I'm from Queanbeyan, New South Wales. So I am a diehard Blues supporter.
that
Two
is
six two zero.
that is a bit
Ricky
of
Stewart country.
that is a bit of a natural migration though from Queensland to the Gold Coast.
Well,
So,
mate, yeah, Queanbeyan is basically the New South Wales Gold Coast, So yeah.
but that being said, is it a player attitude thing? It seems that a lot of times in the past when players have went up to the Gold Coast, been seen as a bit of a party city, and
Look,
players seem to go up there for the lifestyle rather than the club culture.
I I understand what you're saying there, but I think what I've seen, and I've always been a fan of the Titans, the fact that they seem to play better than they're worth, or seem to play a, a level up than I think they have on paper. I actually think there is a good culture at the club within the professionalism. I think they don't have a roster that matches what the other teams have got. Ash Taylor, blokes like that really haven't sort of blossomed the way they could have. Um, Mate, look, you're going around the Gold Coast. You see the boys out all the time at Burleigh Beach. They're pretty. You do come up here for the lifestyle, but it's not the party lifestyle, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
They come up here for, I guess, that just that laid back lifestyle and beaches and swimming and surfing. You follow a few of these guys on Instagram, and blokes like Keegan Hipgrave and lads like that. These guys are full combi van lovers, and I don't know, mate.
Yeah,
They
well,
may as
look,
well be in Byron Bay kind of thing.
we've got a bit off track with them getting touched up by the Panthers, but it's probably bigger news. Where do you think the Titans need to go from here? They just need to
Oh,
go
mate,
on a buying spree?
not necessarily a buying spree. Look, the hard thing for the Titans is, I guess, junior development. You don't have a massive junior development here on the Gold Coast,
That does
and I think,
that doesn't make sense considering the rest of the state is so strong.
yeah. Look, it's okay. Brisbane's very strong. Brisbane's very strong. Um, as a junior, I played in both leagues, and Brisbane's much, much stronger than the Gold
Okay.
Coast. So, I think it's probably just to do with that. The junior development, you want sort of some of those superstars coming through that you can not have to pay too much money for, and that you breed into one club players. But, mate, yeah, look, obviously, as you said, we get a bit off track there from the result, but time will tell with the Titans. I think it's probably not so much a culture thing within the players, but a culture thing within the club. And they definitely don't get the local support. The local support is it is laid back. It's blokes who sort of don't really want to go to the footy, and cheer on the team. You'd prefer to sit around a bar or you sit around your house and
Well,
have a
yeah,
drink and watch it. Yeah, so.
I have some strong feelings about the Titans for one very good reason. I am a North Sydney Bears supporter. Still am. Bought their New South Wales Cup jersey this year.
Yep.
There was talk because the North Leagues Club owns seagulls up there on the Gold Coast.
Yes.
One of the
Yes.
one of the
Yep.
richer pokey palaces.
Yep.
And they were actually interested in getting the Titans license.
Yeah. Look,
I would love
it's
to.
a
I would
good
love
club
to
down
see
there. I
the.
was there a couple of weeks ago.
I would love to see the Bears back in the NRL, even if they were on the Gold Coast. And
Yeah.
I'm
Well, time will tell.
I'm
Look,
sure there would be supporters that would feel the same way.
yeah.
So would
I
you
mean,
think
we
there
can
would
go along
probably
with
be?
these political lines, but we'll see what
Oh,
happens.
I'm just
I
what
mean,
I'm saying is, do you think there would be benefit in a club relocating that already has an existing supporter base?
it it would be probably the strongest way to do it rather than recreate.
Well,
However,
they've done it 4 times now, and it seems to have failed every time.
I don't think. Don't take this wrong way, mate. I probably don't think the North Sydney Bears is probably the right team to do it with.
You can get fucked.
Anyway, let's move on.
And let's
Second
move.
game on the
They
Friday night.
got touched up. Second game on Friday night.
Second game on the Friday.
Upset.
Oh, look, the Dogs. Yeah, big upset here. Obviously, the Knights, were sort of dominating early, and the Doggies just had a massive second half. Will Hopewadi scoring huge. Corey Harawira-Naera, for any owners that did hold on to him, he had a fantastic game.
Would you consider Will Hopewadi to be a bit of a pod?
Definitely, mate. Definitely.
Because his projected score was over 100 as well. And it seems like he's come out of nowhere.
Oh, look,
mate,
projected
nowhere,
scores. I think one thing we know in Supercoach and from playing for years gone past, projected scores, they're more about novelty factor than any kind of trust in the projected score. Like there's no scientific number behind those with regards to anticipation or prediction.
I'd win every week on projected.
Yeah, so mate, look, at the end of the day, Hopewadi, I've actually got him in both my draft leagues. I rate this guy as a Supercoach player from fullback. Nick Meaney's come in, Dallin Watene-Zelezniak. He has sort of gone into the centres, but he does have a big game every now and then in the centres. But he's also got a lot of quiet games. So he's that kind of player where, you can see that kind of score, but probably for the next 6 weeks he won't score above 40, and then he'll do it again. So, he's not someone I'd get in the centres with consistency. As I say, I had him in my draft leagues at fullback because I just thought he'd play there all season. So, yeah. From a Newcastle point of view, look, not too much good about that there. Connor Watson had a solid game. Sean Kenny-Dow, look, not too many players have got him. David Clemmer, 56 after Origin. So we'll see how the Origin obviously stacks up against his body for the run home. Saturday games, mate.
Yep, Saturday.
What do we have the first game on Saturday?
Rabbitohs back up.
Ooh, mate, this.
Back in
look, I work Saturday, so I saw about the first sort of half of this and watched it in and out. Curtis Siren, he's had a big couple of weeks. I think that's 2 tons within the last 3 weeks. So going very well for Manly.
He's had a good
Daly
season.
Cherry-Evans, another orchestrated performance, very much in control of that team. And I think having Turbo back will make him even better. So a lot of people jumping on DCE for the run home. He is quite cheap. I think he's about 485k. So definitely one to watch. Mate, your boys, the Bunnies. Look, obviously it may be a win they needed.
Well,
they may be one of those sort of tough wins.
They needed to get that winning feeling back again. It was looking a bit dire straits there for a while. Like, losing's a habit you don't want to get into. And it was almost getting to that point where it's like, are we in trouble? But Wayne Bennett knows how to steer a star-studded team through an Origin period and get them through to the other side. So hopefully this is a sign of the bounce back that the Rabbitohs needed. Yeah,
definitely. Look, obviously they've George Burst out for that long term. Sammy Burgess out for a few weeks.
Interesting you should mention George Burgess. It was pretty much announced that he's gone at the end of the season. Apparently, that was all part of the long-term plan. It was before his suspension. But it looks like he's probably going to head back to England. Warrington looked like the leading club to sign him up. So,
yeah. Oh, and look, I mean, the last couple of years, there's no doubt him and Tom Burgess have sort of been a little bit down on form. This season probably was a return to form. And, as a player, you can always use that to sort of bankroll the next contract. So, no, good luck to him if that's the case.
Yeah.
And I mean, always the big money brother's always been Sam. So, as long as the Bunnies have sort of got him. But mate, for the run home, the Bunnies, I think they're starting to produce very well. I know they've sort of had those few losses in a row, but I think it's sort of all part of that progression towards the finals.
Yeah, still sitting in second. So.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, Melbourne Storm run away with the minor premiership, but very good signs for the Bunnies, I believe. The next game on the Saturday, mate. What did we have here?
Oh, this shitfest.
Oh, look, 18-all draw. I didn't actually catch much of this game. I caught probably the last 5 minutes and then Golden Point as I was getting home from work.
Yeah, I only saw the Golden Point. I wasn't really impressed with what I saw, but as we were discussing pre-show, the players were obviously gassed from a big 80 minutes. But
Yeah,
I
mate, you
don't
watched that last 10
don't
minutes,
think
they were stuffed.
I don't think if you were trying to introduce someone who's never seen the game before, that this would be a good example to show them.
Fair enough. But, mate, look, I actually like this game. I had a lot of players in this game, and as we alluded to a little bit earlier in the recording, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, I did reverse. I kept Tuivasa-Sheck in there, and he repaid that faith that I had in him because, of course, I always had that faith. 113 points. Payne Haas, another cracking game for him.
Yeah.
I know. Noticed a few people out there, vice captain Payne Haas or RTS, and then did loop. So well done to them. Matty Lodge, another one I brought in last week, had a good game, 81 points. So pretty happy with that.
Decent effort by Isaac Luke too.
Isaac Luke, look, everyone loves Isaac. We've sort of got a few running jokes in our draft league about him, but
there was talk early on the season. Is he past it? But I think we can put in performances like that.
Form is temporary, class is permanent, as the Big Hampton would say. And Jazz Tavanga, obviously owners of Jazz Tavanga, definitely proven to be that pod. Made 70-something tackles, 18 or 19 hit-ups, had an absolutely huge game, played the whole 90 minutes. So, and he was one, actually, if you go back and watch that last 10 minutes, this bloke could barely walk. He put in that much effort. Look, he's going to need a week off before the end of the season if the Warriors can make the finals, because if he puts in that effort every week,
that's a very big if.
He's going to have a very, very short NRL career. Mate, next game, unfortunately, was my boys. Got absolutely towed up by the Storm.
Yeah, a bit of a Cam Smith celebration though. So Storm
but I'll tell you what,
I
did love this game for Supercoach. So while we did get belted, there was a little bit of a turning point in that second half. Sharks were down 18-16, and we threw a forward pass for a try. Could have got us to the lead, but woulda, shoulda, coulda. Cam Smith, 101 points. Brandon Smith, the namesake, had an absolute cracker, 2 tries there, and really showed he's a player of the future, 100 points. Cam Munster with a solid 90, whereas for the Sharkies, Sean Johnson, 98, and Kurt Capewell now. Bogan, mate, history gone past. Now, I know you've just joined the recording with us this year. It's no secret, mate. Look, I'm not a fan of Kurt Capewell in Supercoach. I like this, but mate, I like him for Cronulla, right? I like him. But the last couple of years, Tommy Sangster, Mr. NRL Supercoach himself, absolutely raved about this bloke, right? Last year he said to people, get on, get on, get on. He was fucking wrong. Kurt Capewell was absolutely rubbish. But I did have to swallow my pride this year because he's been a lot better in Supercoach this year. And he showed again on the weekend against the Storm, this bloke can play. So 87 points, had an absolute cracker of a game for Supercoaches, anyone who's held on to him. Sunday footy.
Trouble signs for the Sharks at the moment?
Mate, look, I actually was impressed by our game, as silly as that sounds.
It's hard to gauge when it's up against the Storm on a big night, 400 games for Cam Smith.
If I take the Supercoach hat off and just look at that game and call it bicycle, whatever, but I like to think that I can look at these games impartially. Jesse Bromwich and Nelson Asafa-Solomona absolutely belted the Sharks up the middle early on. The first 20 to 25 minutes, they were absolutely brilliant, and the Melbourne Storm just played off the back of that. The fact that Cronulla hung in there and then early in the second half got back to, I think, like I said, 18-16 down, and then we threw a forward pass for a try that was disallowed. I actually thought we were the better team during that sort of middle 40 minutes. And, mate, the last 20 minutes, Melbourne Storm just blew us away. So I don't think it's worrying signs for the Sharks. I think it's probably good signs, but we need to learn from those mistakes. As long as we can learn from those mistakes, I think come September, we'll definitely make the 8.
Yeah, definitely.
And just need to be able to sort of try and contend. But I still think I still think probably Melbourne and South are probably the two best teams. I know the Roosters are favourites, but I think they've got something that doesn't work for them.
Did
And then
you
I think
did you put a
Roosters will come
nice
up the next.
segue in?
Segue for the first game. Oh, we may as well go to that. Look at this. Look, no, my my biggest concern about the Chooks is their forward pack, and it always has been. Um, they've obviously got plenty of talent in the backs. They've got Cooper Cronk leading them. Luke Keary is a brilliant general as well, and I think Cronk's definitely sort of past his prime, and Keary's the one taking over. What I don't like about the Roosters is their forward pack. I think sometimes they can either be too soft. I think a perfect example on the weekend was Siwa Takiaho. Now, Takiaho scored, I think, about 35 points for owners. Now, he didn't play massive minutes, but here's a guy who, and I know it's Supercoach compared to NRL, but here's a guy who can dominate football games, has a great step, has a great fend, gets line breaks, gets offloads. He should be playing 70 minutes every game and finding some consistency in that kind of performance. Jared Rawira-Hargraves is another one. Like, it's one out of every 4 games where he plays like the best prop in the world, and then the next 3 games he just disappears. As long as, let's say they make the grand final, they need all those guys to step up, and generally they do. Like we saw it last year, the grand final against the Storm, they did. That's simple as that. But I've just got my doubts, and I think if they lose the wrong game at the wrong time, they could get knocked out before they even get there.
Yeah, well, it's consistency is always the big problem for any teams. Cowboys fans would be pleased with that upset, but also take into account the Roosters. Obviously missing Teddy. It's just one of those things where
Teddy rested, Boyd Cordner rested. I mean, at the end of the day, they've showed in weeks past they can win without those guys. So I think they would have been a little bit disappointed. I think they might have come back a little bit flat from the bye week. Canberra, as you'll see a little bit later, they obviously did the opposite. They came back absolutely hot from the bye week.
Mm-hmm.
But look, Jake Friend had a massive game for Supercoaches. Obviously, he had about sort of 10 or 12 weeks out with that. I think it was torn bicep or something like that. So nice return for him. I think he scored a try as well. Joey Manu owners would be pretty happy as well, 74 points. Whereas for the Cowboys, look, not too many names up there that are Supercoach relevant, except for probably Tamalolo. A little bit unlucky for his owners. Now, I didn't captain him, but as you can see there by your highlighted yellow, mate, you did.
Yeah.
And he dropped. I think he went from about 78 down to 63. So the final down dates were a little bit unkind to Tamalolo, mate.
Yeah, well, I think that's just that's me cursing him with my fantastic luck.
Mate, second game on the Sunday. What did we have?
Eels getting up over the Tigers.
Mate, this was just the Takarangi show. Brad Takarangi scored 3 tries, set another one up for Blake Ferguson. Had an absolute cracker of a game. And this was just probably one where the Eels just got away to that bit of an early lead. And it was a good battle between the two teams, a lot of back and forth footy. It was actually a good game to watch. I watched this whole one.
How are the? Because you'd think that come season's end, it's going to be teams like Parramatta and the Tigers that are going to be scrapping for that like last couple of spots in the 8.
Para will definitely be up there, and
well, it's one of those things that once again we talk about consistency. These teams can be red hot one week and just terrible the next. So it's a tough pick between these two.
I think, and I was actually having a chat to a bloke the other day, a guy I play pool with, and the NRL is probably one of the most open competitions of sport in the world. Where
definitely.
I mean, I know
Definitely.
obviously Melbourne what are they, 14-2 or 13-2 or something like that. But on any given day, any team in NRL can beat another team.
Yeah.
When your forwards dominate, when the bounce of the ball goes your way, you don't even really need ref score. I know there's been a lot of sort of, um, you know, concentration on the poor refereeing or the bad rulings and things like that. But at the end of the day, look, there's plenty of teams that win that get those calls go against them. But mate, it's just such a tight competition, and these guys are so big, so athletic that if you're up for 4 or 5 weeks, it's quite easy to have a down week, and all of a sudden you'll get beat by 20 or 30. So I
Mm.
think that's what Craig Bellamy has done, and that's what's so great about the Melbourne Storm culture is that he's learnt to
Well,
harness that so much better than everyone
right.
else, and I guess protect them
So
from those ups and downs.
it's been said many a times too that the Melbourne Storm are a 1% team, as in they get those little things right every time. They collect
No,
those
definitely.
little advantages across the whole field and just turn it into wins.
Yeah,
So,
definitely, mate. David Nofaluma for the Tigers there, 126 points. Now, I actually read it on somewhere on Facebook the other day. A couple of blokes actually mentioned him as a pod. So, look, can't remember their names to give shout outs. I'm not too sure whether they're part of the league or our followers, but obviously massive call from them and spot on. Nofaluma was actually, and Brent and I talked about him earlier before the season even started. He was my first back picked. He had a massive season last year, and I actually picked him as my first centre wing pick. He was big price. I think he was about 520, 530K. And he got dropped. He got absolutely dropped. I think first game he came back, he was injured. So he got dropped to New South Wales Cup. First game he came back, he was injured. But he has proven in the past that he is an absolute gun in Supercoach. Tackle bus, massive runs, scores tries from anywhere on the park. So anyone who has taken the punt and obviously gotten that 126, absolutely cheering because, it could be good for the run home for the Tigers.
yeah.
And then final game of the round, mate. And yeah, as we
The
said,
the
massive
Raiders
win.
the Raiders giving touch up to the Dragons,
And
but
probably the worst footy I've seen the Dragons play. They were bad. They were really bad. They had no defensive presence. They had bugger all in attack. And obviously the big talking point out of this game was the Nick Kotrick tackle. And, he's taken the early guilty plea and taken 3 weeks for the spear tackle on Timmy Laffey.
it's a bit hard.
Um,
It's a bit hard to argue with. Like I know, like obviously being in Canberra, a lot of people that weren't happy with the send off, but
yeah, yeah.
you can't tackle people like that. You know.
Oh, look,
It's
mate,
just it deserves it, and to be honest, the argument is that usually tackles like that you wouldn't get a send off or you'd get put on a report. But it's like, well, maybe there's an argument that there should be more send offs if there is incidences like
yeah.
that, instead of
Look,
saying it's harsh to send someone off for that.
Brent and I talked about it during the week on social media, and obviously a lot of people have. Personally, my opinion is I thought the send off was justified.
Yeah,
The reason I say that is because it was one man in the tackle. I thought when he initially lifted Laffey, I thought he had a chance to not continue the tackle the way it went.
mm.
I thought he had a chance to put him on his back rather than on his head or on his neck, which is sort of what it ended up. And I thought that when he
Yeah.
turned, I
It
actually
was
thought there was an attempt to drive him into the ground.
yeah.
So
It was
that
pretty
that was just
blatant.
the way I saw it.
I know Greg Inglis used to be the king of like diving at the ground to sort of pull the
Yep.
penalty for those types of tackles, but there was no question on it. It was
Yeah.
a dodgy. It was
And
a dangerous tackle that could have ended badly in so many ways. And
well, look, and this is what we
fair
look
call.
at. At the end of the day, we want to grow our sport. We want all the kids to sort of feel safe when they play it. We are a contact sport, and people are going to get hurt, but we don't want it to get dangerous. And we've just got to look back, obviously, in the past with Alex McKinnon. and the tragedy that happened there. And that tackle that obviously caused that for Alex, that was nowhere near what we saw from Nick
No.
Cotric. That was much more accidental. And you go back to things like the shoulder charge. They've outlawed the shoulder charge.
I disagree on that one, but
Well, look, again, I mean, all you got to sort of look at there is that Sunshine Coast lad, playing for the Falcons a few years back, got shoulder charged and died on the field. There's circumstances. I guess you get into a boxing ring and you fight and whatever. There's never the intention there to hurt badly.
yeah.
There's the intent there to win and to win by force, but not to maim or not to kill or anything like that. So
yeah, I think
it's
I don't
want it to become a soft sport.
And we can feel free to argue in the comments, but I disagree with the shoulder charge ban, and I don't like the tackle in the air rule either. I think there's existing laws in place that cover when those things go wrong, like the contact to the head and the horizontal rule. But as I said, happy to argue with people, and I'm obviously in the minority opinion there. So. But
what I do hate about the tackle in the air, mate, the tackle in the air, I hate that it doesn't apply to the attacking team. So let's say you're attacking,
you can jump into someone.
Well, you can jump in the air, and the defensive person can tackle you while you're in the air, and it's not a penalty. But defensively, you can't do it. So that's my sort of biggest gripe there. But anyway,
it was clear, like the tackle in the air was to stop people from hitting the legs and flipping guys over. But
definitely, definitely. It's my argument. In an attack as well.
Well, it's my argument is that if that happens, the players cross the horizontal, and it falls under the same category as a spear tackle. I don't think there should be anything wrong with a player jumping up, wrapping his arms around a bloke and bringing him to the ground in a ball and all.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But as I said, I'm obviously in a minority opinion because many people have called me a dickhead and told me to fuck off when I've said that opinion. So, yeah.
The only thing I'd add about the shoulder charge, I just wanted to quickly, and there's the perfect example on the weekend. Victor Radley. Victor Radley is probably the best of 90, 95 kilos in a sport where most blokes are over 100, 110 now. He absolutely cut in half one of the Cowboys players. It's one of the best tackles I've ever seen. And, Victor the Inflictor, which they call him, he's renowned for it. And that's what I'd love to see again. I'd love to see those sort of tackles that you used to get Gilmeister do and blokes like that without having to go to the shoulder charge. I think there's there's room there where you can still be physical and create absolutely awesome tackles without having to shoulder charge.
I can understand that, but I think that the shoulder charge has made the game lose something incredibly beautiful, and that is the big burly forward charging out of the line and completely missing the shoulder charge.
There's either that or there's the Sonny Bill. I used to love seeing Sonny Bill sort of put one on as well. What have we got next week, mate?
Next week's game.
Broncos and Doggies on the Thursday night. Broncos obviously in great form, so they'll want to continue that. But the Doggies with a good win over Newcastle last week. New Zealand and Cronulla, first game on the Friday night over in Auckland. So Cronulla, obviously there's big talk that Sean Johnson will be out. So guys at home, if you haven't been on social media or living under a rock, make sure that if he is out, have a look at your team and see if you can get a substitution in there. Penrith and St. George, this is going to be an absolute terrible game.
All three of these have been terrible games so far. This isn't looking like the best week of football, to be honest.
Yeah, look, there's a few lopsided games here. You'll see a few short favourites this week. And you go through it really. I mean, Roosters obviously going to be short against the Newcastle Knights.
Probably the Manly Parra game is game of the round.
Probably is, yeah, considering that Tommy Turbo's going to be back and Parra find a little bit of form of late. I just hate playing at Lotto Land. I think I just see too many injuries there. So, as you see, guys, few good games there. Plenty of Supercoach on next week to follow, and back to the normal
that being said,
Thursday through Sunday schedule.
$4 for the Titans. Now, teams tend to bounce back like the week that their coach gets sacked. That's something that's happened quite a few times. That might not be too bad a bet.
It's funny
is that $4.
Obviously Melbourne Storm are resting all their Origin stars as well. So Cameron Munster is out. Joe Stimson is playing in his stead. Josh Addo-Carr's out. So I think Shandor Earl's back in. Will Chambers is out. And I think Felice Kafusi's out. The only one playing for the Storm is Dale Finucane.
And you would think some of those Storm players, some of the Gold Coast players might be a little bit nervous in their names coming up in reviews and things like that as well. So they might be
exactly right.
They might be playing with a few things to prove.
Mate, one of the biggest thing a new coach looks at when they come into a squad is accountability and basically being accountable. You know, it's fallen on the previous coach to get the sword, but at the end of the day, it's the players out there who put in these performances. So
it's Mal Meninga's taken over sort of as a caretaker, hasn't he? Or he was part of the review.
I think it's him.
He hasn't got the best.
Someone else.
He hasn't got the best NRL record, but you can't say he's a terrible coach. So as I said, $4. Bookies might be being generous with that. At TAB there. Anyways,
trading, mate. What do we got? Trading floor?
Yeah, let's skip the intro.
Skip the intro. All right, we'll skip the intro.
Your trade for last week, and it was my trade too.
Didn't happen.
Didn't
happen.
Did for me.
Not for me. Look, I didn't trade any last week. It felt wrong to do it, and I'm not going to trade anyone this week. I'm going to keep RTS. I'm not going to bring in Tommy Turbo. I had this discussion with someone online, and if you're in a league, let's say you're in a cash league and you've got RTS still, and you're running first or second, you're trying to protect your league, then I reckon bring in Turbo. If you're someone who's trying to come from behind, I reckon you keep RTS.
You need
because I think RTS with the ownership is going to be the bigger pod, and I think Manly have an absolute crap run home. Mind you, the Warriors play a lot of top 8 teams as well. But I just think the Warriors are a little bit more dynamic when, I don't know, it just comes to getting RTS the ball. Turbo's got to do it himself a lot. You know, like Turbo, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's just something about it that I think if you want to risk it at home, guys, stick with RTS.
Well, and if you come in 18th like me, who gives a fuck? Welcome aboard, Turbo.
That's it. Last week,
Brand put in his trades. He's went Keary to O'Sullivan to Keary and Stags to
last
Milne.
week?
No, this is this week's trade. He didn't trade at all last week.
No, he had these players in last week. That's it.
This is who we told.
No, he might have just because he changed from last week. He did have different trades last week that I think were on the screen.
Well,
but he actually
didn't. He said no. He said no trades last week. Whether he did trade, you'll have to ask him next week.
When you watch this, you have to check because I swear.
Leave something in the comments.
Who the fuck is Caleb Milne?
He said it's a cheap second row, and it's like if you're looking for cheap players at this stage of the season, you're in trouble.
Pretty sure this bloke signed for Cronulla. But anyway, I don't know. This is one thing I'll just point out to you, Bo. It's not about cheap second rowers for this time of the year. What you're after is people who actually won't play.
Yeah.
So the strategy behind it is, let's say you've got someone sitting at 400,000. Let's say you got 2 players at 400,000. Right?
You don't want 400,000 players who are sitting on the bench not doing nothing. So you trade them in for someone cheap. Yeah.
So what you do is you trade in for someone cheap, and then you trade in the other one for someone who's a gun that's 600 or 650. So it's basically bringing in enough to bring in a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'd just be looking at creating some cash there with that trade. I think Tony Staggs sort of has topped out a little bit. So that's probably just what he was looking at there. And he obviously brought in Luke Keary. This is one I discussed with him. Keary, I think, scored about 51 points. So didn't go too bad, but there was a few other halves and 5/8 that went a little bit better. What else we got, mate?
Onto the leagues, or transition to the leagues, but plug the social media first. So on Twitter at BJM GameDay, on Facebook BJM GameDay, and we've got the Supercoach group code 701-371. Still not too late to join up if people haven't already.
Jump on board, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to do our draft league next year, and we've already sort of announced that the top 10 in overall points for the BJ League will get invited.
Can we open up a spot for the top scorer in the BJ and Game Day group?
Well, it's obviously going to be McCurr. I've got no idea how to say your name, mate, so I apologise. But Tyrone's Rat Bags, I was checking him out earlier in the week and just having a look at his team. So we may do an invitation.
He's scoring better than the Snags. So
yeah, he is. Yeah, so it's fairly competitive there. But what I've also announced, I jumped on to Mike and Sav, a couple of podcasters. Mike and Sav do an NRL podcast, and there's a cracker. I like theirs, actually. I want to do a podcast all-stars.
Mm-hmm.
So basically next season I'm going to create a league and I'm going to get all the podcasters. So whether you're YouTube people like us, whether you're SoundCloud people, whether you're Spotify people, whatever it may be, I'm pretty sure there's probably 15 or 20 blokes out there we can get. I just want to create a little invitational there with people like that. So there might be a couple of select people that I put in as well that have sort of been with us since the start. And there might be blokes like McCurr and Tyrone's Rat Bag as well. So we'll see how we go numbers next year. But definitely want to look out for guys.
And to lift the curtain, usually we talk about ideas pre and post show, but there's one idea I wanted to float. People can leave a comment to see if they think this is a good idea. Instead of the trading floor next week, have a BJ on Game Day team. So that way Brent and Joshy can argue about what trades they want to bring into the show's team rather than their own teams. And also we can have ammo for the challenges and things like that as well. Because instead of eating a chili chip, you might give up your trade for the week.
The only problem with that, Bogan, is you actually can't have multiple accounts. There's been guys kicked out before for it.
Oh,
There's guys who so if me and Brent wanted to have our own account, we wouldn't be able to have a league account as well.
What if my friend John Smith?
Oh, John. Yeah, because no one knows. Yeah, I'll get you. John, he's a good bloke, John.
He's a good bloke.
Maybe we'll see what we can do, but, I'm sure there'll be a few tattletales out there anyway, so we'll see what we can organise. My missus, I'm sure she loves Supercoach. She might want to put in a team. But yeah, let's transition to the league. Obviously, last week, Big Ted, biggest score of the week, 12.88. So very good score there from Big Ted. And as we alluded to earlier, Bunning Snags, 12.73. So Charlie White, well done, mate. Continuing your form at the top of the table.
Marty on the charge.
The bronze medal for the week.
He was inspired by the quality competition that he was up against and got into third place.
That's what it was.
And one Joshua King came fourth, I noticed. So
yeah, mate, I couldn't quite get on the leaderboard this week for the weekly score, but not too far away. I think I scored 12.42. So yeah, happy with that. Leaderboard overall, mate, and Snags, he's crept out a few more points in front of me, as you can see there. And Ranger's still not too far away. So I'm still determined to catch Charlie. One thing I've got to look at is
couple of captain's choices away from him, though. That's the thing.
I don't need to find a pod. Look, I took Latrell last week. Not too. I think Snag. I think he went with Tamalolo. So there was a little bit of a bigger gap, and obviously Tamalolo lost that 15 points. So I think Charlie got hit by that a little bit. Head-to-head last week.
Yeah,
Some
sorry,
results. These Gangsters, Gagas, and Ginger. Ginger getting up in a tight one there, so that was a good match. Ping Ponga managed to get over Leanne with fire and ice, so Hampton trying to save some face there.
I tell you what, though, I reckon Leanne's going to be the one to watch for next year, though. Like, she's had some runs this season, and a few close ones, but
definitely.
I think she'll be up there next year.
Mate, battle of the season one players. Wayno with Hell's Grannies beat Mark with the fucking Cowboys. Marty, said, mate,
gave me a touch up.
Yeah, 170 points. But, mate, Marty's team's pretty strong. Obviously, he hadn't played too well for the Buyers, but head-to-head wise, he's performing well. He's third overall in the head-to-head, so he might be gunning for that Mark Gasnier or Carmichael Hunt little figurines. Psycho Circus. Oh, yeah, so I got over Trent. Who else we got? Checkmate. Oh, he got the for and against booster. Bunning Snags beat Stevie Woods double Denman. Stevie scoring 1,200 plus, so it was a good week for him. I think he went up in the rankings despite losing that head-to-head. Dr. Kayendo.
Picked up 600 points on his for and against.
For and against, so he's happy with that. He actually jumped over the top of me too. I got up to 8, and because he got 600 bloody points for and against, and I just want to point out, I'm going to have a whinge about this right to the end of the season. The threat. Stewart, the threat. So we got these two blokes, and they're lunatics, and they're not even playing. But he's 1-14 for the season. He was 1-0 to start the season, and he beat me in the first round of the season. He scored 1,300 and something, and he led the comp. He was the highest scorer that week. It's the only week he's won, and it beat me.
If you look at his team, he's got a fantastic base team. Like
he does.
Like a few changes here and there, he'd be up there.
Players on the bench. Yeah. All his good players are on the bench because he just doesn't play anymore. So, yeah, it's pretty disappointing. I reckon this bloke actually could play all right.
I wonder if he knows. Like, I wonder if he knew how good a team it was, so he just picked a team and left it. Or I hope as much as we rip on the threat and Brendan's bashes, I hope they're like healthy and happy and whatever has happened to them in life has distracted them from Supercoach. But sometimes I think, are these blokes dead? Like, did he just pick this unbelievable team, and then fall off the perch? Like,
yeah, something.
I wish I had started with that team.
And a few trades here or there for that bloke, and yeah, mate, he'd definitely be up there. Look, if I had that skeleton of the team from the start for his, I'd still be top 1,000. So yeah, I can guarantee that. Big Ted, big win over Brendo. Yeah. Obviously top scored Big Ted for the week, so no one was going to beat him. Sitting there in second place. Rangers dishing out, mate. Blakey, you got kissed on the dick. Absolutely kissed on the dick. Won by 2 points, beat Pete top, Kevin bottom. Pete's got to feel unlucky here. And I think Pete was about 15 or 20 points in front, maybe even more. And Rangers updates, down dates, dead set. If this bloke, he was destined to finish minor premiers in the head-to-head because he's just getting absolutely kissed on the dick every week.
And Pete top, Kevin bottom, or Jesse, we're still waiting for an explanation on that name, mate. It's like, leave something in the comments.
Up on Twitter. I'm pretty sure Jesse's on Twitter, but I don't know. So, Jess, leave a comment, mate. Let us know because we'd love to know.
Head-to-head.
What do we got? For next. Oh, head-to-head. Obviously, Rangers there on top.
But he's being chased. He's being chased by Big Ted and Marty, and that's one thing you don't want, and that's you don't want to be being chased by Big Ted and Marty because that's not a.
Ted's scared, motherfucker.
Yeah.
We'll see how we go. The boys have only got a few rounds left.
But if you see there on the last 5, Marty's on the charge with 4-1 in the last 5. So
problem is there's only 4 rounds to go before finals start, so it's a little bit tough to catch. Obviously, the finals for Supercoach is still in the regular season, so 4 rounds to go. They'll want to see Rangers lose a few, but he's still pretty solid week in, week out, Blakey. Next week's games, who we got? Leanne and Gangsters Gagas. Fucking Cowboys and Ginger. You and Ponga,
Big
mate.
one.
You and
Yeah.
so
That's
game
what.
there.
See, suddenly the reason for him not being on the show becomes apparent.
Mate, scared.
Scared.
Scared. Of course.
Scared.
Mate, he's scared. He's running. He's that scared he had to go all the way to Adelaide.
Yeah, he was afraid that we'd put some sort of bet on the game, and he'd have to, I don't know, sing a song from a musical or something like that on the next show, and he ran away.
But no, it should be a good game, mate. You'll get bragging rights definitely. So, but mate, you can still beat him for the season if you have a strong finish. I would just suggest then not listen because the few times you've listened to me, you've gone backwards. So don't listen to anything I say this week. Maybe do your own thing.
The big matchup is on the next page.
Oh, Stevie Woods and
Brendan's Bashes.
Oh, and the threat. No,
the threat.
One of them's going to win. One of them's going to win. Oh, shit.
You'd have to think the threat's got it.
I couldn't see the threat. He was covered by your limit icon. Oh, wow.
Can Brendan's Bashes get a win? Can
we put a shout out there? Anyone who knows this bloke, I reckon we got to find these two blokes.
And
anyone who has any idea you think you know who these blokes are, can you find them? Because I actually wanted to put the best teams on the park this week and see legitimately who can win. Now, these blokes probably haven't made a trade all fucking season.
And if they're dead, we're very sorry for your loss.
It's not their loss. Their family's loss, but family's no place to go. My missus doesn't. But, all right, so I got Stevie Woods, so that'll be a good game. Bunning Snags up against Brendo, one of Brent's mates. Rangus de Janeiro up against Kayendo. So, obviously, Kayendo, mate, you're going to have a bit of a test this week after Brendan's Bashes last week. Got stiff competition with Rangus. And PTKB up against Big Ted. That'll be a good game, actually, that one. So,
All right.
What else we got? That's it.
Shout out to Frank, top scorer that wasn't in the league. Hope in Cogra, which there isn't at the moment, I'm guessing. But I don't know. I think overall rank, I believe that might be. Oh no, because his overall rank is 12. I'll have to check that.
All right. I don't know.
But he was the top scorer. He was the top scorer that wasn't in the BJ and GameDay League. Top scorer in the BJ and GameDay group was Big Ted as well. But Frank, so shout out to Frank. And once again, that Twitter is at BJ on GameDay. The Facebook is BJ on GameDay. And the Supercoach group code is 701371.
Meanwhile, in Rugby League Live in the background, mate, you give me a touch-up, 36-14. You're smashing me.
I don't know. It just doesn't sting.
I've had a bad record.
Yeah, but next week you'll win by 50 or something. So.
Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, but that's it, mate. Another week, short and sweet, not too long. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Like we say every week, give us a like, give us a subscribe. I think we're up to about 175. I'd love to crack the 200 before the end of the year.
Well, what did Brent say he'd do if he get to 200? He said, I'll have to check the replay, but he said he'd do something.
I don't know, nudie run or something. Let's make him do a nudie run. That'll
get us banned from YouTube.
If we get to 200, Hampton will do a nudie run.
A pixelated nudie run. We'll have to pre-record it.
Yeah, it'd be small pixels. Me too. Me too. All right, guys. Thanks very much for joining. We'll catch you all next week.